All right, friends, I need to vent because this drives me crazy. This isn't geared towards a specific creator, but just a community as the whole that I would like to see do better. But let me know in the comments if you've experienced this before. Oh, I think I'm going to look up how to make drums in this specific genre. And so I go on YouTube and type this in and how to make drum and bass drums. And then you get this guy or this gal or somebody in between, and they're like, "Yo, how's it going? Yeah, check it. We're gonna make your drums sound pro. So what I'm gonna do is go into the sample pack and then like drag some loops and then add some saturation and then there you go. Because sample choice is the way to do it. Just go on Splice. Buy my sample pack. It's not on Splice." And it's like, yo, fuck. All right. So I get why people do this. And I think that there is merit. Somebody said it in Discord to loop abuse and to repurposing loops and stuff. But this does not teach you how to make drums. This teaches you how to put a beat together. And there is a huge problem that I have with that because whenever I look up these tutorials, I'm like, I want to know how to make the drums. I want to know how to make the sounds. I want to know how do I make my own drums. Now, somebody could argue like, yo, why would you want to do that in the first place? You could just go on Splice and you could just, you know, I guess go and find your favorite creators packs and all that other stuff. And like, yeah, that's cool. But like for one, you can't tell me how to I guess, pursue my own creative journey for what I like to do. And if you know me, like all I ever do is make drums and I make bass, even though I don't make drum and bass that much. So today I do want to talk about some things of general ideas about how to go about making drums and give you a loose kind of idea, if you will, on how to make them a little bit more aggressive. Today is not going to be showing you how to do pro stuff, but I will be showing you some, I guess, tools that will improve your drums in general. So what we're going to do is go into my sample pack. Just kidding. We'll probably be using something like a beatbox because that is one of the most raw forms of something to manipulate drums. And if you can do that, then when you actually have clean sounds to synthesize and all that other stuff, it should be fairly simple. Um, as an advertisement, I'm going to be giving a lot of information here away for free, but I do have a masterclass on how to make Bitwig drums and faceplant drums just using those tools on my website. But that's okay. I'm not trying to, that's not the point of today's video. It's more so about, hey, you're here to try to make drums. Now, recording is a boss skill, and you don't need to have an insane mic. If you have an iPhone or you have a Samsung or whatever kind of smartphones are out these days, then that's more than enough to do what you need to do. But we need to understand, for one, the kind of aesthetic that you're going for, because not all kick drums are the same, right? Not all snares are the same. Not all mix approaches are the same. And I think that's very important to consider. But also a means of what defines what a specific drum sound is. What is the difference between a kick and a snare, right? You might be able to do it vocally of being like, yo, a kick is like, and a snare is like, or something of the sort. But more importantly, what is their function and what are they doing and why do we have something like why do we have the kick and snare together, all that other stuff. And I'm going to answer those questions here in just a second. What I need from you is to let me know if you've had this experience before in the comments. That's a very formal way of saying, hey, please interact with my channel because my channel's dead. No, it's not dead, but it's been slow. So what makes a kick? A kick is a thump. It's generally around 40 to 100 hertz, where the most prominent fundamental is, and it's something that you are supposed to feel. And a snare is something that you are supposed to hear. Both a kick, a snare, and a clap have a transient, a body, and a tail. If you're using a clap, then you have multiple transients generally. So if you wanted to, a very easy way to put a clap together, I'll just do it right now without any processing, is something like this. Ready? You don't need to do it in a DAW. You could do it on your phone, but all you have to do is take all the transients of this and layer them in a way that is going to kind of get something like this to where they're offset. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And depending on what you're going for, right? Like if you're doing house or something, like you don't need this to be the most sloppy, goopy clap or whatever. However, if you wanted to do that and you wanted to have something like a halftime clap, or you wanted to have something that is more open with lots of reverb, then utilizing this skill can actually be super helpful. So if I were to do something kind of like this, then you'll see that it's not perfect, but it is starting to get into the, how do you say, beginning points of what dictates what a clap is. If you look at these little guys here, this is all transients. All right, these are a little bit too far away from each other, but let's go ahead and make this a little bit closer. A little bit closer. And there you go. And if you need a fundamental, something that you can always do is grab something like eClap, especially if you're in Bitwig. I know that Ableton also has something of the sort. You can put your fundamental right here, or like your synthesized sound, and do something like this to where you just have something here. And now, look, that's how easy that was. I haven't even gotten into like, you know, super crazy, yo, how do I like make this sound insane or whatever? Because to be honest with you, like a little bit of distortion and saturation will go a long way for this. But when it comes into designing drums and all that, it doesn't have to be as complicated. It is a rabbit hole, and when you're trying to achieve specific things, yes, but when it comes into actually making drums, you kind of need to understand the anatomy of what you're trying to build in the first place, and then that's where the other stuff can start to build, I guess, if you will. So let's say I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to do a kick. So let me record out. I'm just going to do a couple of these, but I'm going to try to get the lowest fundamental tone I can out of the microphone using my voice. Hold on one second. There we go. All right. So that actually probably did not have a lot of low end, but I'll show you a quick trick. And I've already got a video on my channel that you can watch right now that teaches you how to sound design claps from, or sorry, kicks from scratch. But if we take a look at this, all right, this actually has some low end in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this one and pitch it down. Let's grab an EQ. And let's say this doesn't have a fundamental, because it doesn't. There's no clear sine wave. Well, check this out. I want this to be in G. I lied. I want this to be in C sharp. So I'm going to grab this guy. Oh. Okay. Whoa. What? Amazing. Now, is this the best kick? Of course not. Could we make it better? Absolutely. We could do something like adding some distortion to it. That's where you would go into things like transient shaping, compression, all that other stuff. Let's say if I wanted to use a transient control, we can bump this just a bit. Usually, if you do this, you're like, it's way too much, unless if it has like zero transient at all whatsoever. But if we take this and give this a little boost, and then removing some of the transient, is it a great kick? No. Is it a kick? Absolutely. What this needs, though, is it needs a transient, because we have the body of this. It has the thump energy of it. But at this point in time, this little part right here, which we might even need to have something that's smaller or so, needs to have something to help give this that pop from what's going on. So one strategy that we can take in order to make this a thing is to try to clip this for one, just a bit. And then we're going to turn this up and make this into a fade. Then we can also pitch this up. That's one strategy. The other strategy is to actually do it by pitch bending this. So if I hit Command J and we add a pitcher here, pitch it of water, and then we change the stretch mode, because usually leaving this in stretch HD is going to be like, if we make it at this pitch, it's not going to change until way later. This one's a little bit faster to react, so. But now look, I've got something that has a little bit more thump in it. The thump comes from this region here. The sub comes from this. This is what you feel. This is the bump. This is the boxiness. And then this is the texture. So understanding that whenever you do stuff is going to kind of help bring you down the path to help make this a little bit easier to work with, right? But the cool thing about this is like, yo, this is a very what do you even call this? This is not a kick, but we just made it into a makeshift one, very simple. And that's usually like all you have to do is understand that you need to have the properties or the formula of the sound to create whatever kick, snare, clapper, whatever you got coming out of this. If we want to do a little bit more, we can try a fuse compressor. Now, bear in mind, there is a lot more that I would do to this because I have a very specific process about how I make drums. That being said, if you do something like this, oh, well, there you go. So if we turn this stuff off, we've got this into this, right? So there you go. Now let's talk about a snare. Let's go ahead and record that. Snares are the most complicated. And if I guess if we're going to talk about hats as well, like that's the easiest one. You just go tss, 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 and then high pass it, add some chorus if you want to, and then change the dynamic. Or you can use bit crushing if you want it to sound more like a shaker. But yeah, this is a very general approach, by the way. This isn't meant to be like, here is how to make a dubstep snare or something. There's just too much information to cover. I go over halftime drums in my courses because I like to make stuff like as big as possible. But let's do something that's kind of like a techie snare or something. So probably going to take the last one. It doesn't matter. It's just a starting point. But if you have something like this and we go, this is a little bit more plosive here. So what that means is it's going to be a little bit easier to add some kind of transient to it or something. But let's go ahead and make this into something that is going to sound more like a snare. First off, we don't need the low information if it has it. And just like how we did with a kick, we can also force a fundamental out of this. So let's say I want something in this range. Just listen for it. Look, there it is. Hope that no, I'm just kidding. So we're gonna make this I'm sorry. We're gonna make this dynamic here and pull out some of the middle end. Then we can boost the high end. Now with snares, and especially with working with high end, you might have to get a little bit more creative with this. And so one trick that you can do is something like a vocoder layer, because what this will do is actually create clean white noise on top of this. There are other devices that you can use, such as a ring mod or a bit crusher, which I'm not going to go over that. But if we adjust the release of this, turn the formant up on all this, and then adjust the high pass, listen to this. Nothing happens. There we go. I just turned the bands up. So now, as opposed to just this, we have... Great. Okay, cool. So now what do? We can go through our distortion. That's already a snare. I don't think that I'm going to go much further than that. We can grab some fuse compressor. All right, that's already a snare. And then we can do something like over in order to clip it. We're already clipping it with the fuse compressor here, which this is just an OTT. You can also just use a free OTT. I'm sorry I didn't mention that before, but you can try the OTT with Bitwig as well. The thing with this is that this tends to color the sound because it has a very aggressive preset from the get-go. So what you need to do is adjust the bands here. This is upwards compression. This is downwards compression. So upwards, downwards. And unfortunately, I don't think that you can adjust the bands individually other than this. But you can mess with this a little bit to kind of find a nice middle ground and usually turn the mix down. So you see how aggressive that is though? So something else that you can try is to just move the downwards compressor here. There we go. So this is with the OTT. This is with the fuse compressor. This is a little bit softer, but you can always adjust it if you need to. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. There's not really a right or wrong, if you will. It's kind of just different ways to manipulate this. They are the same. They are doing both upwards and downwards compression. It's just a matter about how you mess with it. And then you can see here that we've got a little bit of wiggle room, so we can adjust this to make it a little bit louder. And you essentially have a snare. If you need more noise over the top, you can make this louder, or you can go back and adjust the high bands of this to, fit your needs. Also, I have a tendency, I'm going to double click this. Oh, I thought that was going to reset. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can make this reset again. Default, default, default. Please. It didn't reset. All right, we're going to do this. Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to waste your time. So long attack, long release. Generally speaking, long attack, long release with drums if we're talking about compression in general, but we're going to upwards compression. You can see the downwards compression threshold is being pushed up. So that way we're not doing as much downward stuff. Otherwise you could take this and adjust this here if you want to, but here we go. There we go. If you want to add some reverb to it because it's super dry, then you can do both another chain like this. For example, we can go Pro R. I like Pro R2 for drums. Also Valhalla Room. You could just use any of the stock devices. It doesn't matter. But all we need to do on this, because this has a built-in EQ, is 100% back off the ducking. Go like this. And then we just kind of solo this for one to get the tail that we want, right? That's pretty bright. And then we just turn it down and mix it in. That's still too much. To me, like, I try to mix this into where I can barely hear it, especially for my genre, because having a really tight sense of tails or like really tight drums kind of caters to what the genre demands. But if you have something like that and you pull it out, we've basically created that same kind of, why is this so long, shape, as you can see down here, of having a really nice clipped sound. And I did almost no synthesis, just a little bit of processing. So when it comes into making drums and all that other stuff, I guarantee you to some extent, the process that I've shown you here of distortion, compression, EQ, clipping, and all that is how you make drums. This is how you do just about every kind of drum sound that you want to make. Like I said, if you want to go deeper with me and you want to explore all of that I know about drums, then I suggest you take the masterclasses that I have on my website or join the ARCANUM membership where I talk about specific things. But guys, don't make it too hard. And for all of you YouTubers out there that are making this fucking thing where you just like reach into a sample pack or something, you're not helping. Teach us how to make drums. Teach us something different than what I know. That's what I want to learn. I am a drum maestro, connoisseur, if you will. Every single person that I have taken private lessons from, the number one thing that I ask them about is drums. The second thing is bass. And I'm still learning how to make drums better, but I want to see the YouTube community do better and actually show us your process. Like, show us what you're doing. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but get us started, especially in other genres. If you make trap drums, all that other stuff, there's a couple of guys out there. I've got some videos. If we're talking about drum and bass, if we're talking about tech house, I don't want to see you dig into your sample pack and go, oh, well, what you do is you just find yourself some good samples and you go, no, 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 yes. And that's not helpful. That's not helpful. I expect more from you in 2024. So if you found this video helpful, I would really love it. If you liked the video, leave a comment with a genre of drums that you would like to see. Personally, I would like to see a revisit to trip hop drums, which I've done a few, but there's some things that I think could be improved. I would also like to see somebody else take a stab at doing halftime drums, somebody that's not me, and see what their process is and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you all. Support the channel at alchemy.com or book a lesson with me. And thank you all so much. I really appreciate all of you. I am 33 tomorrow as of October 3rd. This is probably going to be up a week later, but yay. Bye everybody. Have an awesome rest of your evening.